no sign up there. I don't drive a truck, but I know that. Well, there's no sign up there. He said, I go, well, I don't drive a truck, but I know you couldn't get through that. Chris, you doing baseball again this year, coaching?
Nope.
Really? You're not coaching your son? Gave up?
He doesn't like baseball, so he's doing track. Yeah, like I'm on the board still, and this will be it. I got the tournament I run. This was last year I'm running it, and then someone else is going to take over. So I'm kind of like doing it in step with her this year, so she knows how to run it. That'll be it. Well, if I do a lot with my son's track club, they have a club over the summer where they run Tuesday, Thursday nights, and then they do track meets. So he's doing school track right now.
Where does he go to? Front? You go to Hamburg?
He goes front. We live in Hamburg, but it's Frontier District. So he goes Frontier.
Oh, you got that nice, beautiful track for the school that you used to go to.
Yeah, they just opened. Yeah, like they just opened finally. So I, childhood never used either of those. Reagan would have loved it. But they do have a nice track set up. It's a nice facility. We're just 10 years behind everybody else.
At least you got a chance to. No, they're not even playing on it, right? Just like at mine. Right? That's all you ever wanted to do was play on the field. He did play 1 year football.
Yeah.
But the other year, sitting there, I'm like, all right, look at all my tax money going down there. I got those 2 new baseball fields or softball fields. But the track and football field was like, he loved that because that was like, that one school had the blue track and the blue field.
Yes. I love that. Yes. Which one? There's one I've gone to.
Doesn't Jamestown have green field?
No, I went to Carter ran track up. I want to say we're out middle of nowhere, like maybe Newfane or Albion.
Yeah.
And they have the blue or purple, kind of like, what is it? Boise has that blue field, so it looked like Boise.
Yeah.
I want to say is Newfane out past Lancaster or Albion?
Oh no, you know what school it is? The other school.
Alden. That's good. He ran a track meet there. I'm like, oh, cool, they got a blue turf. Or cross country he ran out there, where they had a nice facility in the back.
I mean, everybody's doing capital projects.
Yeah, the village has got, the Hamburg Village, they have that nice turf that they've had for years, but what's nice about that is it's right out in the open in the village, so everybody uses it.
So you can use it like that?
Anyone can walk and go walk the track or do anything, but in Frontier, we're like buried behind the school.
So nobody knows it exists?
It's not like a community park where the village is, but their capital project, they're doing all turf, softball, baseball fields up there now. We need a real pool in our school district. And our gym is too low ceiling for like competitive volleyball.
How many, what's the difference in the students at Frontier and Hamburg?
I don't know. It's gotta be pretty good just because of Lakeview, like all the developments out in Lakeview. So it's gotta be a significant.
Where's the cutoff point? So you got all those schools like that, Lakeview, Hamburg, and Frontier.
Well, Lakeview is part of Frontier. So that's the thing, like all those kids.
So there's a cutoff point somewhere?
So yeah, in just the village. If you live in the village or like Boston, you go to the village in Hamburg. So that's more of considered like a walking district. They have buses, but it's only for the kids who live in like Boston or maybe the Fringe or Eden. They go to Orchard Park. I'm sorry, they go to Hamburg. Yeah, my girl teaches already. Okay, so does she really? What's her name? Jacob. My daughter's law. Is she at the high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, high school.
Yeah, my daughter just graduated. She was big into art and music.
Oh yeah.
She's doing her major right now is fashion design and merchandising. So like, she likes all that.
Yeah.
You're a Hamburg resident too?
No, she's got to drive 45 minutes.
still an athlete, Dad. I go, well, you've got to remember that too, because when you go back to school, we're gonna see what your bank account is.
Yeah. That's what my daughter, a friend of mine runs the Spirit of Buffalo. His family owns it. He's like, oh, does your daughter want to do, you know, the tours on the water? And you work like every day. But she's like, oh no, I like my job at Old Navy. Like, this guy's like guaranteeing you like 50 hours a week with tips.
Well, money, exactly.
Outside, in the sunshine.
I need a shot right here.
No, you're good. Oh, Old Navy, I like Old Navy. I'm like, oh. What's going on with Polish rice? You got something?
He's got to stay on the,
Oh, is that what it is?
4:30 with the 4 o'clock.
I don't know, it says I'll be a camera for.
Did you get up?
I did, but Rich, I switched with Ursing Day because he wants to go early to the last Sabres game. Maybe they're gonna be like on a tombstone hours.
When he made that decision, he thought that they.
Probably, yes, he likes Bob.
And they might be trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
He has season.
I think it'll still be fun there tonight.
Yeah, he'll grab like, we'll swap if it's like Ryan Miller night, or if the day he wants to like get there early and get in, or if he wants to go to dinner before, because he's got the season tickets, he'll take my shift and then I'll work dinner.
Charles, can I clip on your mic stand here?
Yes. It's not wired up, I'm not wired. So I haven't really seen what your camera looks like. What does that look like?
Looks like an iPhone.
Oh, looks like an iPhone?
It is 4K. We don't film at 4K though because it's too high quality, sir. I have a camera in my car. I just haven't used it in a long time.
Oh. So you got used to it now.
I did. Well, it's still working from home. It's just so much easier to send on the phone.
Yeah, because it's not. I can't believe you guys still work from home, that's so nice.
They tried to bring me back in. But they're a little convinced.
Hello, hello.
I have a wireless for this too somewhere, but it's I don't trust it.
You get lost in
They're
cold
so cheaply
somewhere?
made.
Yeah. You guys going out towards your park yet?
Oh, for the tour. I gotta get another interview after this so that I can get my teeth back tomorrow.
Everybody's talking about tomorrow, huh?
I was like, if I can knock out 2 stories today so that you could just run one, can I play golf at 11 o'clock tomorrow?
What's in this building besides us?
Big set of doors on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, isn't there,
But I don't know.
I think it was.
I thought that was who it was, I'm so bad.
Computer thing. Well, how tall are you, man? About 6'7"?
Yeah, 6'7". Right on the mic, people.
I know
Wow.
basketball players' size.
Yeah.
Around the long time. Did you play? Oops.
I was a rower. No, on the court
Was
I
it like Cornell or something?
Hamilton, up the road, up the 90, a little ways. Yeah.
Went to St. Lawrence for a year, so I know that.
Yeah, yeah. Rowed against you, right? You have a rowing program. Yeah. Yeah.
So, me and Danny went to the debate us last week, and they had one of those backdrops like that, and they have like rocks all in the road.
I knew it was going down the whole time too. I was like, can I run across there and stop it if it starts to blow down? I just watched it hit it right in the back.
Bam.
of the head.
Right in the middle of.
Okay, now we can start.
Oh yeah, finally, Brayden again.
Come on, man.
I know. Trust me, I know my head's not on straight this morning, so.
I do that to every last person here, so.
It's usually me. So.
because I texted him, and I knew you walked in, I'm like, all right. Don't have to say it to you. All right.
Do you need any balance?
Good.
All balances are good? All right.
Make sure, yep.
You're on? All right.
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
Well, I started out going to the downtown place.
I've never been here either. So when I saw the email from Russ, I'm like, wait, where am I going? I'm like, you're telling me Orchard Park, you're telling me on the waterfront. I've always gone to the holding center. I'll miss those lobby runs down.
Yeah.
I think that like two people.
This is a better spot.
And then the doors in, yeah, the parking area is huge. Yeah, I always park like in front of the courts.
Mm-hmm. It's all the way down there.
Sean Ryan's office.
Crap, it's at the other place. So I was going away, and the receptionist last lady that's always there.
Yeah.
She's just like, I'm at the wrong building. I need to go down. And she's like, yeah, down over here. I'm just, yeah.
I tell you, we're not taking any off topics. We're just staying on this one. Okay. Let me ask you that. Yeah. We can, we'll, happy to address them at some other time. Yeah, okay. That, yeah, I didn't, that's not, if we just wanted to, this is really the comments right there.
I just have off topics for you, so you can pop up there.
Oh, absolutely.
Pop up for a few
I don't know
minutes.
how he likes to give remarks, but is this going to be an issue?
No.
Okay.
Is it, as long as all the pages are there.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be surprised what I can put on TV.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
You haven't watched the news, so you don't know what we put on.
Meanwhile, just hands flying.
Hey, what happens in this building right here? It's just another extension of your office, that's all?
Yeah, so we expanded, our professional standards division, a lot of pistol permits, but we really increased PSD just for all that stuff. But we also put training under PSD as well. So this is right now one of our training centers, classroom stuff.
Right.
So we no longer have to find places, go here or there. Everyone comes here, so we've kind of centralized it. With all the Sheriff Garcia really put a focus on just those internal investigations where needed. And we're hiring a ton of people. That, those basic corrections academy, we'll have 50 applicants. We have to investigate every one of those applicants. That takes a long time.
Yeah.
You signed up?
Oh, no, I signed up, Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
What have I signed up for?
Congratulations.
How extensively?
You gotta grow wired. Yeah.
Well, my White House one was like,
Yeah.
Well, it was a mustache longer than it was a beard anyway.
Yeah.
That's true, that's true. Yeah.
I'll take it. Yeah.
We can always set up something. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. How you doing?
Morning, Sheriff.
I don't know if everyone's been here before, but we finally have this new training and professional standards division office, which allows us to, what we have to do is train our deputies, train our clerical staff, modernize the office. But it is my pleasure to be here today with our Congressman, Nick Langworthy, a big supporter of not only the Erie County Sheriff's Office, but all law enforcement throughout this county and throughout the state and our nation. The Congressman was very supportive coming into office, and he called and said, Sheriff, what is it that we need to be prepared, to be ahead of the curve on protecting and serving our public? How to be efficient, effective in these rescue and recovery and search missions. And right away, I said, well, I could tell you this, Congressman, we could really use a new helicopter. Our helicopter is 22 years old. It's a single engine helicopter. We're blessed to have 3 trained pilots in a agency our size. It's unheard of. But we can't get it up there enough times for it to be really the tool that is necessary. Yesterday alone, the helicopter answered 2 calls in the city of Buffalo. One was a vehicle pursuit. We all know how dangerous a vehicle pursuit could be. They called it off. You can't outrun a helicopter. It followed, and 3 individuals were charged with felonies. A second call came out in the city of Buffalo, a man with a knife, and the helicopter tracked this individual down. So it's a regional resource. And now, what do we have coming up? The boating season. 90 miles we have of coastline. The lake, the river. We're the only game in town. You saw what happened in Niagara Falls, I believe it was last year or the year before, and it was a coincidence that the Coast Guard had training going on at that time. If it wasn't for that, no one would have been able to respond in time. So, you know, for us, it's about protecting our public. It's also about being a regional resource for everyone. When we saw what occurred during these 2 storms, one of them, a generational storm, we were fortunate enough to have 2 vehicles that were traction vehicles that were able to get through the snow and save many lives. We can't put a price on saving lives. So when the Congressman called and said, what can we do for you? It really is refreshing to have that support from our federal partners, because, you know, there's limited dollars here in the county. Another point I wanted to make is that, you know, we continue to work with everyone, be it in the county, state, and federal, to make sure that we take care of our public. That is our mission. That is our mission. So, with further ado, I'd just like to introduce Congressman Langworthy, a supporter of law enforcement and a supporter of the Erie County Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheriff Garcia, and good morning. Thank you so much for coming out this morning, and I want to just reiterate the words of Sheriff Garcia. He's a great governmental partner. I just love the improvements and the professionalism he's brought in taking this Erie County Sheriff's Office to the next level. I mean, it's evident, and he works hard day and night along with the men and women of this department to make sure that the people of Erie County are safe. And the dedication is crystal clear. When we talk about public service, we have no finer example of what it means than our men and women in uniform. They put their lives on the line every single day to keep us safe. That's the job of government, is to keep the public, the taxpayers, the citizens safe. When these men and women suit up and put that uniform on in the morning and they head to work, they never know what that day is going to bring. When they say goodbye, a law enforcement family, they hug a little tighter. And we saw what it meant for first responder families in this community when we lost a fireman just about a month ago. You know, people that go to work and expect an average day, and that day turns on them. So it's a deeply noble calling to be willing to sacrifice it all in the service of your fellow citizen. And I've made it an effort since taking office to show solidarity with law enforcement every single way I can, this is a sprawling 7-county district, and we're visiting with law enforcement partners, and that's what it is. It's a partnership. As I represent this community and the federal government, working with our partners on the ground, because they see the changes in a community, what's going on first and foremost. They're on the front lines every single day. They're dealing with the crises that this community is facing before a lot of people in the public or the media figure out what's really going on. And so I want to show my intense gratitude, my support for the men and women in uniform. But never in my lifetime would I think that we live in a system where the criminals seem to have more rights than victims, where our law enforcement heroes, they're treated like criminals while criminals walk out the front door of the jail with a free pass. But that's exactly what's happened with the bail and discovery laws in the state of New York that desperately need to be fixed in this budget process in Albany. And I've stood here far too many times talking to the local media about the horrific real-life impact of these asinine radical policies. Blood has been shed right here in Western New York. Families have been shattered. Can anyone imagine what the lives of Kiara Benningfield's children are like right now? It's gone from the front pages of the paper, but these kids will never get their mother back. And the family has said in crystal clear terms that it's because of the bail reform laws that their daughter is gone. There are countless other victims in the shadows and holding the pieces of this broken system in their hands. Yet the governor and the lawmakers, they sit in Albany day after day and they refuse to act, and they have the power to act. They have the votes to act. The fact that they are now nearly 2 weeks late on the budget because they simply can't agree that judges elected to make decisions should have the discretion to keep violent criminals behind bars. It's mind-blowing. It's unacceptable, and the public should be outraged that this very simple decision can't be made. How many more lives need to be destroyed before they do something about it? I'm just sick of standing here, and I know the sheriff is too, saying the same thing over and over and over. They're on the front lines, the men and women of this department, every single day, the Buffalo PD, all of our brave men and women in uniform across this region. They're under siege from criminals that know that they are now the protected class, that there are no consequences for many of their actions. And it has to stop. This is not how a civilized society operates. And I'm doing what I can on the federal level to make public safety a top priority. My colleagues and I in the New York delegation introduced the Serve Our Communities Act, the Stop Enabling Repeat Violence and Endangering Our Communities Act, to try to bring some common sense into recidivism. And it sounds pretty straightforward, but common sense is missing a lot in our policies today, and that's certainly the case with the scourge of fentanyl pouring across our open borders. And I'm glad to be here today to have that conversation with Sheriff Garcia and many of the deputies as to how it's impacting their day-to-day jobs here protecting the citizens of Erie County. It's so lethal that a sugar packet-sized container can kill 500 people. And that's hyperbole. That's not hyperbole. That is just simply a fact. 500 people on a Splenda packet. Yet the Biden administration, they sit on their hands and allow this crisis to rage. In 2021, our nation lost more than 100,000 residents to overdoses. It's the leading cause of death for Americans age 18 to 45. Now, we could have a very lengthy discussion about what China's motives are, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we're allowing it to flow into our country with open arms. The Chinese are profit seekers. They are creating the fentanyl. They are handing the cartels the product to peddle across our border. And we've handed control of this border to the cartels that are making billions of dollars with American blood on their hands. And I'll let Sheriff Garcia speak to this, but I know that this problem is that this department deals with every day, because every other department I meet with deals with this every day. There isn't enough Narcan or manpower in the world to fix this problem once the drugs are actually here. And we have to go to the root, and that means securing the border. And it's easy for people to think that this is a faraway problem. This is about Mexico and Texas and Arizona and California. It's not. Every state in America is now a border state because of this fentanyl crisis. It's here. And our northern border is vulnerable too. We've seen 1,000% increase in illegal crossings in the last year alone. Cartels are smart. They're a business. They're big business. They're taking advantage of our policies. They know that we have no border security in this country, and they're going to take full advantage of it. We're a border community right here. Multiple crossings, but the whole entirety of the northern border is the largest unsecured border in the world. And that's why several colleagues and I have formed a Northern Border Security Caucus to bring attention to that growing problem before it starts to be the inferno that the southern border is. We don't have enough Border Patrol officers or resources to deal with it. And if I said it once, I've said it a million times. If we don't have a border, we don't have a country. And we have to protect America. Hundreds of people on our terrorist watch list, they have come across an open border. And those are the only ones that we've caught and we know about. And there's somewhere between 600,000 and 1 million people called gotaways. We have no idea where they are. It's like the population of Rochester, Syracuse, and Buffalo combined, wandering around the country. We have no idea why they're here, who they are, or where they are. We're going to rue the day that we sacrifice the safety of this nation in the name of woke policy. The solution is not rocket science. It's just that the government has to have a backbone and enforce the laws as they are on the books and enforce our borders like every other country does. We have to wake up and get control of this crisis. And finally, if you allow me to switch gears a little bit before we wrap, I want to talk about something that doesn't get the headlines until it's too late, and that's disaster preparedness. And that's something I'm very excited to be here to learn a lot more about today from the Erie County Sheriff's Office personnel. Our community faced devastating losses during Winter Storm Elliott. And I want to start off by saying thank you to the men and women of this department that sacrificed their lives. They left their homes at Christmas to go save the lives of so many of our fellow Western New Yorkers. It was a horrific once-in-a-generation storm that stole the lives of nearly 50 of our fellow community members. And it took a Herculean response from first responders who, again, left their families on Christmas to go out into very dangerous conditions, put their own lives on the line, and we're eternally grateful. And I was very proud to work in a bipartisan fashion with my colleague, Congressman Higgins, Governor Hochul, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, to secure a major disaster declaration from FEMA, allowing the bills to be paid by the federal government for this storm. It wasn't anything that was guaranteed because there's carve-outs for snow, and it was not our greatest snowfall of the year. So we really had to put added leverage, added pressure to get this done. And I want to make sure that as we go forward, that we are making sure that our law enforcement officers have the resources that they need to do their jobs and respond to an emergency of that magnitude or a similar fashion. We're going to get additional really bad snowstorms here. It's just going to happen, and we need to make sure that the all-weather equipment is available to our departments in making sure that they have what they need and they have what they need to save lives. So I want to thank Sheriff Garcia for taking the time out of his very busy schedule and so many of the members of the department that are going to be with us today to discuss how I, as a federal official, as a member of Congress representing this community, can help to secure resources that are desperately needed by the department. So it is my honor to fight for law enforcement in the halls of Congress, and I can't think of a better government partner than Sheriff John Garcia, and we're going to work together side by side while we serve to get things done and protect the people of Erie County. So at this point, I think we could probably take any questions, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, Sheriff?
Can you, I know there's a tour after this at Chestnut Ridge. Can you talk about, will this training facility help deal with some of the fentanyl issues at the border, or is it just totally separate?
Well, I mean, working together with our state and federal partners is what we do every day, and it's these investigations that occur, sometimes start in Canada. And as you saw when we had a press conference here just a couple months ago when we had that large seizure of fentanyl, that came directly from Mexico. The stamps and so forth on the kilo packages were cartel. So, our men and women, that's why, I mentioned the helicopter, invaluable tool. Again, the Marine Patrol, we have two boats out there that will be going into the water. It's 90 miles of coastline, and as you could see, you know, the Peace Bridge, it's not a driver, but it's, you know, a pretty good shot, short shot right there. So as the Congressman said, you know, it's a most extensive border between two nations, and it's unprotected. So if you're going to be a drug dealer, if you're going to bring in any kind of illegal substances, fentanyl, which is, you know, how many people has it killed? It's a no-brainer for them to come over Canada.
I just want to add that in my travels, I spent a lot of time in the counties of the southern tier in my district, which, you know, we have a ton of the counties on the Pennsylvania line. They salute Sheriff Garcia's cooperation, and in particular Chautauqua County Sheriff Jim Quattrone was singing the praises of Sheriff Garcia and the Erie County Sheriff's Office for sharing assets, sharing ideas, sharing training. And that is the spirit of cooperation that we see in the leadership. I really appreciate this department helping, you know, those departments in those communities that don't maybe have as many resources at their disposal.
Sheriff, obviously, not to downplay something that's been killing so many people, but we've been hearing about this fentanyl scourge for a couple of years now, at least. Is it actually getting worse? Can you describe, you know, the way this is all trending?
So, you know, when I was a narcotics detective years ago, people that sold heroin, sold cocaine, their cutting agent to extend the product was something like a laxative for heroin. It was VitaBlend for cocaine. Fentanyl is a much cheaper product that gives you a lot of bang for your buck. So it has that effect that heroin or cocaine would have, but it's much cheaper. So if you're going to put it out to your customers and make a larger profit margin, and you don't care about your customers, yeah, so you're going to use fentanyl. So it's basically you're murdering your customers. And to answer your question, yes, it's much more prevalent because, you know, fentanyl is so much cheaper than buying a kilo of heroin or buying a kilo of cocaine. And, you know, for me, it's something that I'm very concerned about, not only in our community, but if it gets into our facilities.
How are you?
Charlie, I'm sorry.
Yeah, today's newspaper, Sheriff Garcia was talking about a new county jail facility. Are you confident that you'll be able to, you know, seek to secure some federal funding for pretty expensive projects?
I haven't gotten into that project, and I know the sheriff will probably have more to say about that later today. But I mean, we're here to talk about just the total assets of the department. You know, whether it's facilities, whether it's equipment, whether it's training, whatever we can tap into, we want to get to work. And that's where I have these meetings as I travel around the district, you know, here early in my first term, to meet with these partners to see how we can best establish, you know, pure cooperation. And that's, you know, it's not based around one single item, one single, you know, project. It's based upon having to have those relationships and being there and understanding what's going on in the community, because these law enforcement officers and this sheriff's office, they're on the front lines every day. So they see trends before other people will. And I think that's really important for all of us to know that are in a public policy role.
Charlie, I just wanted to say that, you know, as far as equipment goes, you know, we need our federal partners. We need our federal partners because we saw what happened in the storm. We had two vehicles that were traction vehicles. They were two-seaters. So we were able to obtain two additional ones that are six-seaters that you'll see today with a stretcher that you could place in the back. Now, that's a great resource. Do I hope that we never use it? Absolutely. But we will train. We will keep it up, ready to go, because as we saw this past year, 47 people died in 2022 in Erie County. Unacceptable. We have to be prepared. We have to be ahead of that curve and see what's coming down the pipe. And that's why I say we need a new helicopter. Our adjoining counties depend on us. Our two cities, our towns and villages here in Erie County depend on us when they're are searching for a child, for a vulnerable adult with dementia, with vehicle pursuits that are very, very dangerous, with people that are stranded out in the lake or the river. I mean, these are mothers and fathers and sons and daughters out there. So you can't put a price on it. I'm telling everyone, we need one. It's unsafe. It's a single engine, 22-year helicopter. That's it. It's not a shiny toy that I want to add to the office. It's something that's necessary, and it's going to save lives, and we see it every day that it does save lives.
So I haven't purchased a helicopter lately. What's it take to secure a helicopter on your end, and then is the federal money available to do
Well,
that?
I think what we're looking at right now is through some programs through military surplus and seeing what we might be able to work through, some of the bureaucracy to see if there's anything available on the schedule to secure for Erie County to upgrade its equipment, in the area of helicopter or anything else that might be available.
Yeah, we've taken a look at several programs, and we've looked at leasing. We've looked at every option possible. We are going to be fiscally prudent and responsible. We're looking for funding from our federal partners, our state partners, and military surplus. As we know, the military changes equipment more often than not. So we are more than happy to take a twin-engine helicopter off their hands, as other counties throughout this country have. So in doing the assessment of this office, when I came into office, I right away saw that how could I put up 3 trained officers that are husbands, fathers, sons, up in a helicopter, save lives, when I don't feel very comfortable with them up there. So we need one. We need one. It's going to save lives. It has saved lives. And so the price, sir, I'm not sure. But, I haven't bought a helicopter in a while, and I wondered what a trade-in would be, right? It was $350,000. I was very disappointed in the trade-in for the 22-year helicopter.
What's the age of Air One right now, and how many weeks a year is it out of service just for general maintenance where that secondary would help?
That's a great question. So it's 22 years old. Air One is 22 years old, and you see it up there all the time. Buffalo Bills games. We're doing security, traffic. The boating season's coming, up and down, 90 miles. Search, rescue, recovery missions. It's down more often than it's up.
And this new helicopter would just go along with the 22-year-old or replace it?
No, we would have that in addition to. We'll maintain the 22-year one because let's say, the county's pretty large. We have an incident in Clarence, right? And then we have an incident on Clarence Street in Buffalo. So it would be great to have both of them available. And but like the gentleman asked, how often is it down? It's more often down than up, unfortunately.
Congressman, you bring up bail reform as a significant problem in the state. What more at the federal level do you believe that you could do to help address bail reform across the state?
It is a state issue. I mean, and you're seeing a few states around the country that have decided to basically destroy the criminal justice systems in the name of woke policies. And I don't know what more has to happen before people wake up, but they can make the decision, and I know there's some discussion of making some changes right now. I mean, anything's better than what's there now. I think they should scrap the whole thing and start over and include law enforcement, include district attorneys, include victims' rights panels, not just include the criminals, but this is also a state that, gave marijuana licenses to, convicted criminals before it gave it to veterans. So, everything's upside down in New York. The one area that we're having some discussions is, as I've talked to, Jamestown Police, for instance. They brought up the fact that they try to get drug cases. That's a city that's, had a lot of tough drug trafficking, that they try to get federal partners as much as possible in law enforcement so there'll be actually penalties and they can actually hold these criminals because, class 1 felony, some of these people are walking right out the door. And then they laugh at the law enforcement officers. How can they build a case against someone you can't hold, you can't leverage. I mean, this is ridiculous, and that's what I'd like to see is more ability and more assets, so we can, get federal law enforcement at the table on some of those big ticket drug things, especially as the fentanyl goes. I mean, I think that this is certainly the life and death of our citizens, and so much of this is obviously trafficked internationally, let alone across state lines. So there's a federal nexus. So hopefully we can, see more opportunities to get the federal government involved in these busts, so that we can get to the bottom of it and actually hold the people, so they're not making a mockery of the system because New York's got this in and out policy on bail.
I just wanted to touch on bail reform real quick. So, in speaking with, families of I'm speaking with victims and their families and witnesses and those that, commit the crime, defense attorneys, prosecutors, bail reform is many times not fair to the victims when the perpetrator is back out after a burglary and is able to stand across the street from your house that you've just been violated, your kids are scared. The witnesses that are the Good Samaritans that say, they step forward and help the police in saying, that's the individual that I saw broke in. Now they're being intimidated. It's also really not fair to those that get arrested, because many times the only time that they get any kind of care, be it, for their medical ailments, be it mental, physical, substance abuse, is when they're in the correctional facility. When they're put back out and they go back out and commit more burglaries and more car break-ins, it doesn't do the community any good, and it doesn't do them any good. I've had calls from parents asking if their son, John Doe or Jane Doe, is in custody, and I say no, and they're disappointed because they might be with a syringe in their arm underneath an overpass or in an abandoned house. So there's more to it, that people get more services when they are incarcerated. I know it sounds sad, but that's the reality of it.
All right, thanks everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate the
That's great.
assistance. And
You're not.